Hello, I'm Chloe Hayward and I am a TV journalist. Welcome to a new episode of Work to Earn, brought to you by humans. Now, this is a show for Web3 enthusiasts and those who are curious about working in the sector. Now, I'm here to introduce you to this episode's guest, my wonderful friend, Soledad Contreras. Now, Sol, she's a director of partnerships at CoinDesk. CoinDesk is behind Festival Consensus and is the world's leading crypto and blockchain media group. Now, I've known Sol for the best part of 20 years. Yes, we met very young when we were both working at the finance magazine Euromoney. I was a reporter covering the Latin America beat, and she was in media sales in the same geography. Now, it turns out trips to places like Panama City, Rio de Janeiro, and her hometown of Buenos Aires, to name just a few, are a great way to cement a friendship, as well as a huge admiration for Sol's incredible knowledge and skills when it came to work. I was also able to admire her ability to drink champagne and enjoy the finer things in life. When Sol told me she was moving to CoinDesk, I knew she'd be a huge success. Her enthusiasm and drive as she embarked on this new challenge has been awe-inspiring. She's a media pro and has adapted so quickly to new clients in the crypto world. I don't think she's ever going to look back. But not only has she transitioned seamlessly into a role of events and media with Web3 companies, she's also a figurehead in the all-too-thorny subject of gender balance in the very male world of crypto. You want to hear what she has to say. I'm certainly listening. Enjoy the show.
Hi, Sol. Thanks so much for coming to the podcast. Thanks so much for having time.
It's a pleasure. I was honored to be invited to your show.
Amazing. How was your morning starts today?
Oh, my mornings are always a rush. I always say, my favorite time of the day is when I push everyone out of the door at home, and then I have the house to myself and I can start working. That usually happens at 8:45. That's, yes, it's the best time of the day. Children at school, husband in the office, and then I can, I can be the queen of the house and start connecting with what's been happening the night before in the US.
Yeah, and you are based in London, no?
Yes, I am based in London. I work remotely in my home office. I am recording this from my broom cupboard where I work. So yes, my job is fully remote. I work for CoinDesk, as you know, which is a US headquartered company, where whilst the head office is in the States, we have people all over the world.
And you are director of partnerships at CoinDesk. What does it exactly mean? What are you doing day to day?
So my role is essentially focused on driving business to the different parts of the CoinDesk ecosystem. So advertising and sponsorship for our TV network, our podcast network, the site, which obviously runs display advertising, and different forms of sponsorship for the conferences that we do, for the events.
You was on the same role and maybe practically the same role at Euromoney, so mostly working with advertising and sales teams.
Euromoney was my first job in the UK, and I joined as a salesperson for what then was the print magazine. This was a long time ago. And I was selling sort of advertising and sponsorship for the magazine and for the conferences and roundtables and different things that they did at the time. Then sort of my career evolved. I moved to other publications and did different things within Euromoney. But yes, essentially the task was similar. I would say that the clients were slightly different. Back at Euromoney, I used to sell mostly to banks, financial institutions in general, some corporates, and some governments as well. There used to be a lot of investor relations work that in the past I would do with the governments of different countries, whether it is to help them with their debt management strategies or attracting investment to their countries. So essentially, the offering is not very different in the sense that, aside from the print side of things, which is a thing from the past, CoinDesk is obviously fully digital. the proposition in terms of media and event sponsorships it's not very different. The big change I've noticed was on the client side, on the people that I sort of interact with.
And how can you describe these changes? What are the differences between these people?
The first thing that I noticed was different was the pace at which things move. When you are talking to banks or sort of more TradFi, as they are called now, traditional financial institutions, usually the decision process for an advertising campaign or whether the sponsorship of a festival or for a webinar, or things tend to take quite a lot of time to decide. Whereas in crypto and Web3, because it is a market that is constantly evolving and still in permanent evolution, things tend to be decided very quickly, for yes or for no. But it's very rare that I would have something in the pipeline for more than a couple of months. Things tend to move pretty quickly within weeks. So that was one of the things that I had to adjust myself, getting used to moving a little bit faster and not having these long conversations with agencies and clients and agencies that would take forever. And then if I take a step back from when I first started at CoinDesk, which was in March last year, March 2021, I very quickly started having calls with clients, like informal introductory calls, first with alongside my boss and then just by myself. And one of the things that I liked the best was how welcoming everyone is. And everyone understands that most of the people are very new to the sector. And that's something that, generally the world of finance is quite, stiff, and people are very serious. And also as a woman, you have to work very hard to be taken seriously, particularly if you are trying to sell a sponsorship to a product person in a bank, whether it is cash management or foreign exchange or any sort of form of trading. You need to know what you're talking about within 2 minutes, because otherwise you'll likely be dismissed. And I think it's not like in crypto, you don't have to know what you're talking about. You do, but I think everyone understands that the majority of people who are in crypto are new to it. So everyone is kind of learning. That made me think, oh wow, yes, I am in the right place or in the right sector.
Yeah. By the way, what was your first touch with the crypto market?
Back from in my previous life, there was always content written about crypto and blockchain. But I have to say, most of the times, all the content that I read, in any traditional finance publications, it's not just Euromoney. It could be the same, with the FT of the Wall Street Journal or any of the financially focused publications. Everything that you would read about crypto tended to be either hostile or, about scams or about papers leaked from banks that were, going to offer crypto to their, wealthy clients or whatever. So yes, I didn't have a preconception of it, but I all the information that I came across, and this is probably one of the main problems that the industry has, that it has a very it has a not the best of reputations, so that's a barrier that I think slowly will start coming down. But yes, I think that was my first interaction with the sector back in my previous role. And once I started with CoinDesk, I started, because I've already had quite a bit of experience in dealing with clients, I started talking to them very quickly. So I spoke with, associations, clients that do, custody on the institutional side, people that have, data services or research services. So it was really broad. It did take me quite a bit of time to connect the dots and understand which, all the different bits of the crypto ecosystem, how do they relate? You start seeing what an exchange is. Why do you need a MetaMask wallet? So from the very basics until the more sort of sophisticated aspects that involve more the institutional side of things. So, and I think, the best way to educate yourself is to start talking with your clients. As I said, no one expects someone working in sales, as I am, to be an expert. They won't come to me for crypto expertise. They would come to me for advice on how best they can use their dollars or their Bitcoin or whatever in advertising spend.
I want to ask you a little bit more about your onboarding to the crypto market, about your onboarding to about your way of education.
I went to a high school that was focused on economics and accountancy, and then I did my university degree in Buenos Aires, where I am from, and I did a management degree, business and management degree would be the translation. And very quickly I started working. So really my background, I fell into advertising by chance, really. I started very young working for an advertising agency, which most of the clients were banks, and they used to be quite focused on the health sector as well, but there was a lot of sort of contact with banks at the time. This was in the I would say in the 2000s, and I started sort of developing my career at the agency as a media planner, media buyer, then selling to these clients as well. So when I moved to the UK, working in advertising seemed to be a very sort of quick fit for me. It's hard, and as for anyone who emigrates from a different country without a job already in the country, I think you would naturally, unless you are a doctor or a lawyer, you would tend to go for something that's similar to what you did in the past, so that you can take advantage of your experience. And that's when my opportunity at Euromoney came along, and I stayed for quite some time, because it was a large company, and I could do different things at different times. And yes, I really enjoyed it. Did lots and lots of traveling. Went to places that I didn't even know where they were located on the map, and it was fun until it wasn't fun anymore, and I was looking for something to challenge myself. And then you were asking about the onboarding with CoinDesk. I've actually applied for the role without really knowing very much what CoinDesk was.
Oh, wow! So you would find by yourself? It was not a hunting.
Yes, I applied. No, I applied. This was, I think it was a LinkedIn post. I was looking, I was actively looking to something new. This was, I think we all shifted in different ways during the those dark days of 2020. So I was looking for a fresh start, and whilst still working in my previous job, I started looking actively, and it seems to be the way it was worded, director of partnerships, working internationally, multimedia. I thought, well, maybe, and I remember having my first interview with them, and they said, yes, well, we are like the company you're working for. We are the leading media for crypto. And I went like, all right, okay. So it was something new to me. As the interviews evolved, I tapped my network, the few people I knew that had already shifted from traditional publishing or traditional finance or whatever to crypto. You have to bear in mind this was 2020, so still mainstream, but not as it is today. I think we are seeing it evolve so quickly. And then I discovered that actually, if I wanted to sort of develop my career in financial media, this was the right channel to go to. This, media finance was transforming. The world of crypto and digital assets was gaining more and more space, and I think I was ready to take the challenge to change and learn something. Learn something new. It's always hard to leave behind, in a sales role anywhere in any sector. You always develop relationships with clients and become close to them. And that's the hardest part, leaving behind your relationships of years and years. But then again, I thought, I will keep some of those relationships and I will build new ones in a different sector. So why not? And it was a long interview process because it was remote. I couldn't meet anyone. In 2020 we couldn't travel, so all my interviews were online. So it took a while, I think, to get to the job offer. But yes, I think, I never look back.
Yeah. It seems like it's a very, very challenging shift. Like you've been working in Euromoney for 14 years. 14 years seems like it's your maybe more than family.
Yeah, it was a long time. It came a point when I felt we had hit the best that we could possibly be. And I thought there was a particular year, 2019, when we had a super time. We had, a big anniversary, and believe it or not, that is still important in traditional media. So, we had parties and things around the world and gatherings. It was fantastic. And I thought, it's not going to get any better than this. So I think I need to start looking for what might be a little bit, more exciting. I think I was at a point in my career where I felt, well, maybe if I am not going to enjoy it as much as I did last year, maybe I should think about trying something new. And I wasn't specifically looking for a job in crypto because it wasn't within my radar, not as much as it is now, I think, or maybe also because I am more exposed. But yeah, I think that the main thing was, and it is, when we dive a little bit more into CoinDesk, I think I wanted to have fun again, and I wasn't having much fun towards the end. So that was the main reason. I think I had a super time for many years. Obviously, that's why I stayed for so long. But having fun, and obviously in sales you always work under pressure, and you always have the pressure to perform and to hit your targets and to reach what you have to reach. That's no different from any other sales job in any other sector or industry. If you work in a business development role, you always have that target that you need to hit, but you can have fun along the way whilst doing that. So I think that's what I wanted to explore. Right.
And you've mentioned that you had quite a long interview process in CoinDesk, and I want to ask you what was you asking CoinDesk in terms of your decision to start job there? What was your questions to the company?
I wanted to know how things worked in general and how they'd manage the transition. So I had to do that in my other job, transitioning from working in the office every day to a remote setting. How they had managed that, whether they were happy with that, with how that worked. But you know what? One of the things that really made me think, oh, I really want this job, were the people I talked to. Everyone who I was interviewing with, because I think each company is different and they have their processes and everything. In this case, we had CoinDesk does the interviews for certain positions through a panel. So you talk to people from different areas of the companies. In my case, I talk to salespeople who would be my colleagues. I talk to marketing people, audience people, HR, obviously. Then more senior sort of figures until I got the interview with the CEO. So whilst I was interviewing colleagues at my level, I thought, well, I could see myself working with these people. I will learn a lot from them. So that was fun. And then when I had my interview with the CEO, he seemed to have, which he still does actually, such a clear vision of where he wanted the company to be in a certain period of time. And I remember talking to my friends about it whilst I was going through the interview, the few people who knew I was in the process. That was quite, fascinating. Someone who had a clear vision, that is not thinking about, multiple restructurings or reorgs, or he seems to have a very clear idea of what the company was going to achieve in a certain period of time and how they were going to get to there. And, it was whether I wanted to come on board or not. And yes, that was one of the things that made me think, wow, this seems to be an interesting place.
Maybe can you mention a little bit some things in which companies' culture are different between Web2 media and Web3 media? Maybe some like culture shifts.
Yes, I mean, in CoinDesk in particular, there is a list of fundamentals that we have as a company, which actually one of them is to have fun, which I quite liked, and we do have fun along the way. But certain things like speaking straight, I think, is very important. People are quite authentic. They are accountable for what they do. The company has grown very quickly in a short period of time, and obviously that puts strain in resources, in sort of having the capacity to get things done at a certain speed. So I think everyone, and maybe this has been in a way more evident as we are working remotely. You have to be responsible for the site that you're covering, because if you're not, then your colleague next door won't be able to continue with the next step of the process. So I think that's quite important in terms of culture. We are a small team, a couple of hundred people, from which grew from, I don't know, say at the beginning there were probably 20, and then quickly grew to more and more and more. But I think the company has doubled the size between 2020, so before I joined, until now. And still, as in any other sort of crypto or Web3 organization, the churn is high. People tend to, stay for a bit. Maybe it can be the pace or whatever. But yes, I think the spirit of collaboration and this being authentic and speaking straight is very important. I think that people are face value. They are what they seem to be. Like, nobody has time to to politics or and that was quite refreshing in a way. The authenticity and the team of people I work with, my colleagues. Everyone is super professional. They know what they're doing. And I worked in multiple sales teams in my career, managing them, being part of them. And there are always, certain occasions when you have friction or and I haven't had any episode of, friction or anything like that in the year and a half that I have been working. So everyone, I think, is no nonsense, know what they're doing, and just, keep plugging on.
It seems like in Web3 companies, especially in not as large companies as CoinDesk, for example, like everyone can influence on anything. So I want to ask you if do you influence or do you have maybe some influence on the content that CoinDesk produce?
When you say content, you're referring to the editorial coverage that we do. That is entirely separate. That's completely independent, and everyone who works on the commercial side of things, on the business side, has no influence or cannot interfere either with content or programming. For the events, for example, when we are programming for an event, sponsorships and content go through separate tracks. And we do, I really like that sort of state and church separation, and things are separate. We don't influence each other. Everyone does what they're supposed to be doing, and that obviously helps with the credibility of the project, of the business. And then with regards to the products that we do on the advertising and sponsorship side, yes, we have calls every week. Aside from the one-to-one calls with my manager, we do have team calls every week, which I think they're so important. And that's when we stop and think about, it's not just about what have you sold, what have you got in the pipeline. They're a bit more, we take our time to think about, sales strategy, but also why certain products are not performing how they should be, or what can we do better in terms of workflow for, webinars or sponsor content, or what's happening with the site that has so many ads on this particular page. Shouldn't we be thinking about the layout? What's happening with click-through rates for the ads? Which pages need to be serving more ads than others? So there is obviously a hierarchy in terms of team leader and all that. I don't think anyone is afraid to put forward suggestions and things get done pretty quickly. If we need to twist terms and conditions in an insertion order, and if someone says, it doesn't matter who they are, if they suggest, look, this should be done this way, and we all agree, it doesn't matter who the idea comes from. So that's quite it's nice to have this sort of open forum for us to discuss how we could do things better, or how things should change. And then now, this is a particularly critical time. September is when we start working on the Consensus Festival, which is our flagship conference that will take place in April next year. So we start ideally 6 months out, roughly, with sponsorship sales, because people have to plan for these things, but also because these type of executions do take quite a bit of time to set up. So we need to know well in advance. So it is an exciting time of the year for us, but very, very busy, because we need to make sure that all our clients are aware of what's happening. We all want to deliver the best for our clients, because inventory is limited. But even then, when we might all be fighting for the same type of sponsorship for our clients, at least last year, we never had any problems within the team in terms of, you can take that booth for this, you can take that for your client. No, I think this client will be better in this one. That sort of spirit of collaboration I hadn't seen in the past, and I'm very happy.
I want to ask you a little bit more about your team. How large is it? I mean, your sales and partnership team.
Mm-hmm. So we are at the moment. This team has grown quite a lot in the last few years. When I first joined, when my position was open, or the position I was applying for was opened back in sort of mid of 2020, there were 2 people in the team. 2 more joined, myself and another colleague of mine who looks after other parts of the world. So that made us 4. Then we promoted someone who was working on the ad execution side of things. So making sure that the ads were running, the display ads, the podcast sponsorship, working on ad operations. And we hired someone else in the spring, just before Consensus, who's working on the clients that are non-Cryptonative. So it's 6 of us so far in sales. Hopefully 7 before too long. We are focused on advertising and sponsorship. And then we have a group of people that work alongside on ad operations, 2 people in ad operations, 3 people that work on the custom content execution. So everything that we do, which is not off the shelf, tailored content or custom video. There's a team that works on that together with us, but rather than selling, sort of helping us with the ideas and the execution. And then we kind of borrow people from different teams, the people who execute the webinars, the ones who execute all the podcast sponsorship as well. So you see, we are all kind of connected with the whole organization. And as I was mentioning earlier, we have also a large consensus team that work on the operations, on the client onboarding. Closer to the time, we would have dedicated account managers for the sponsor. So you're talking with lots of people all the time in the organization. Less so with the editorial stuff, but that's, again, it's because we manage those 2 channels separate. So it's less likely that we will be, talking on a work basis. I'm sure, if people are in the office, I'm sure they will see each other and talk. And we do have, we have an office in New York, and people can go if they want to as well.
Yeah. I cannot to ask you about what the percentage of women in your team.
Oh, we've been talking about that last week, actually. On the sales team, I unfortunately, or for whichever reason, I am the token female, because from this 6 people that we are, just the only one. But I think that's not. I don't think it's because women are not good sales people. Because I work with some amazing women in publishing. I think it might be that the theme or the context may be scary for them, because we sometimes it's you try to recruit from a diverse pool of talent, and I think CoinDesk makes a big point in recruiting from diverse backgrounds. We sponsored last week, the week before last, I joined the team who went to Chicago for the American LGBT Journalists Association, and we were there promoting CoinDesk as a good place to work in journalism. And there are other sort of ethnic minority conferences that we sponsor to try and have a more diverse pool of talent coming to us to recruit. Why we haven't had perhaps enough candidates applying for a sales role in this particular team, I think it might be because there isn't enough visibility yet within women for this sector. There's lots of things that still can be done, I think, and there are lots of things being done already to try to encourage women to enter the world of crypto and Web3. And I have to say, a great proportion of the clients I talk to are women, which is great, I think. Not all of them are on the business side. Many of them are, head of events or head of marketing or head of product in some cases. However, if you go to a crypto conference, and you went to, I wasn't in Lisbon last week, but probably you saw the proportion, and that became, very evident. Consensus as well. any sort of meetup, crypto drinks, whatever that I go to, we tend to be very few still. But that, I think gradually that will change as, more awareness is raised within women. And if anything, I would say it's not very hard to find the right networks for women who want to move into Web3. There are lots of groups of, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Telegram, on different sort of social media platforms of women in crypto. I think that will gradually, once the quotas are reached, hopefully that will slow down a bit, because also we don't really want to be the women in crypto only, as people don't want to be from a certain race in crypto. We just want to be part of a crypto community as a whole, despite the gender. So hopefully, say in 10 years' time, or when my daughters are looking for a job in crypto, hopefully they will not need to join these women in groups, but they are necessary now. What is crypto? Crypto is numbers, finance, mathematics mixed up with technology, computers. Perhaps it's not for it doesn't appeal to many women, but actually once you start looking at the different sectors, I feel there's a huge opportunity in the creators economy for women. There's opportunities for design, which will only continue to grow. It's just a matter of trying to find the right niche. But if you think about research firms, trading firms, it's there is space for female talent, and it is a good opportunity now to get in there, because I think everyone is very conscious that we need more women in the sector.
What do companies do now to attract more women in Web3?
I think that there are lots of companies doing meetups or dedicated events or webinars, that sort of thing, that try to sort of bring more women to the sector. But I think it's not just gender. It's different backgrounds, and obviously, the more diverse your pool of talent is, the better ideas you will have on the table, because people naturally will see things differently. Again, I feel that the barriers to enter the sector are quite low when you scratch the surface. And this is a very good time to get into the industry, because this, if you want competitive advantage that we have as women, I think if you ask any hiring manager in CoinDesk or elsewhere, they will say that they want more female talent to join the company. So. And then something else that candidates can do to educate themselves on the sector is just tap the free resources. I don't want to advertise us, although we do have a very good Learn platform that people can access for free. But there's lots of once you enter the circuit, there are webinars, there are meetups, there are masterclasses, there are lots of things that you can do online or in person. And that helps you connect with people. And I have to say, as it was the case, 10 years ago or 15 years ago with women in finance, I think it's happening now with women in crypto, right? There seems to be this spirit of collaboration that we all want to help each other, and share our experience and say, look, it's actually not that bad. It might feel a bit like a boys' club, but actually it's okay. You'll be welcome. People will respect you for who you are. And then once you transfer that into real life and you start meeting people in person, I don't know, I think the magic happens.
The topic that we've picked up now is very, very related and very connected to the hiring in Web3. And in one of the interviews for 10 Clouds at Consensus, you've said that companies are changing the way they recruit. And there's a huge movement of trying to change language that we use for hiring within crypto ecosystem. So I want to ask you, what are the changes? Can you maybe describe it? What are the changes in the language that we are using for hiring in Web3?
Yes, I think this is happening. I mean, it happened first in finance, and inevitably it has translated to crypto and Web3. There are certain adjectives or requirements for roles that tend to be more appealing for men. Whether it's the way that it can be, I don't know, high performing, or those things sometimes tend to put people off. Whereas if you word your job specs as team worker or problem solving or strategic thinking, there are certain ways that, and this isn't me saying it, there's research proven that there are certain qualities that are more appealing for female talent than to men. But ultimately, I don't think that there should be a positive discrimination for women. I just think we need to get those applicants to come to companies that are in Web3 and crypto in general. So if we shift the way we look for talent, whether we do it within certain communities or tapping people who are already in the industry and might have a network already. Because generally, when you're looking for someone to work in a certain team, it's likely that the person joining will be in the network of other of the team members, because they will be like-minded, right? So it's trying to break a little bit that way of thinking and try to broaden a bit the sources of CVs. And also, if you think nowadays, so many roles can be done remotely, saving employment regulation and all that. I think it's great that you don't have to focus on hiring in a certain geography, unless obviously certain jobs require you to be on a certain place for time zones or whatever. But it can be so broad, and crypto also has that benefit that many people work remotely. Most of the things are done from home, which is again more appealing for women, I think.
When you hire in CoinDesk, you're obviously looking for Web2 talents who are shifting to the Web3. And does it mean that you are ready in CoinDesk to hire people who has no Web3 background, who are non-cryptonative at all?
I think it depends on the role. Obviously, if you are looking for an experienced editor or someone who needs to have a certain background to cover certain areas, and it's not like a grad trainee program when you train the journalists to become more experts, which we have those as well, certain roles will require certain experience. But we hire people for audience development, for marketing, for sales, for you name it, and they don't necessarily have to come from another sort of crypto media, because there aren't that many, first of all. But then also it's not really a requirement. Certainly, it wasn't a requirement for me when I joined. I didn't really need the crypto experience. That was something that I could acquire on the role. I can't speak obviously for all the positions open.
For sure,
it depends. But remember that since we are in media group, I think it's more relevant for the candidates to have experience in marketing, in social media management or events operations. I don't think that the people who work with us on events ops necessarily had crypto background. They were onboarding clients for a big show. whether they have done fashion before or healthcare. That's irrelevant, really. So yes, I haven't seen that very many people coming from other crypto companies.
Yeah, so and can we maybe just try to formulate what does it exactly mean to be a crypto native? How can you describe it from your angle?
I wouldn't say, native, but people who are very familiar with the concept, with the sector, either because they own and trade crypto, because they use it, because they have it as whether as a store of value or as it has a transactional use. That's one thing. There's people who are in the play to earn sector. Gaming is huge in this sector as well. So how many people have made lots of money, especially when we were on lockdown? How many people were sort of playing and making money in that way? There's obviously developers, programmers. That's I think more specific. But it's just, I think, people who are familiarized with what crypto is. I have to say, and going back to the beginning, crypto does have a reputational problem, and people seem to think that, oh no, I'm going to work in crypto and it's full of scammers, and I don't want to work for someone that is still stealing money from whatever. But it's not like that. Crypto companies don't want to take people's money and put it in a vault and then sort of make sure that they forget their passcodes and then steal that from them. So it's not, sometimes just the man on the street. And I don't want to be patronizing or anything. More and more people know what crypto is about. But yes, generally, if you ask the man on the street, they will think, oh no, they are all scammers, don't go there. And actually, it's very, very far from that. Yes, there will be scammers, there will be bad coins. Always there will be it's a volatile sector that is crying for regulation, and if that regulation doesn't come to protect the holders, to protect the investors, there will be more and more incidents, just to call them to give them a more elegant name. But I think being a self-regulated market, yes, that has risks, true, but at the same time, I think not. I think it's a smaller proportion of people who are scammers. The broad majority of the sector wants the sector to continue to grow and to do well. And yes, there will be big firms that have suffered from hackers or whatever, and we do report on that all the time as well. It's not like we're hiding any of that at CoinDesk. We are the first ones to expose those things as well. But as I think as regulation catches up with innovation, which sadly it's what happens in a sector like this. It's constantly innovating. Regulation will always be catching up, because by the time the rules are written and approved and published, they are old, because the sector has evolved already twice or three times. So there will always be a lag between innovation and regulation. So it's something that as things are now, we have to accept. But for the candidates, I would think for anyone who's thinking about transitioning or is exploring opportunities in crypto and Web3, I feel if you position yourself in a sector that is growing, in a sector that is evolving, and you learn about it, and you start building your network in, as I said, in a sector that, yes, it has its challenges, but predominantly it's growing, then what's there to lose? that's how I saw it. But perhaps because I felt the contrast with traditional finance and from working with banks that had been challenged and disrupted by fintechs or whatever for a long time. Suddenly, working in a sector that is in constant growth and evolution, and with new ideas and things, I feel like it's a no-brainer.
What I want also to ask you is about how do you onboard people from traditional finance and CoinDesk? Do you have any onboarding processes of learning crypto market, or company doesn't help with this onboarding process?
I think we put the resources available. I think in most cases it's up to the candidate how much they want to, how curious they want to be about the sector, how much they want to learn. I don't think that there is a formal process. Like we don't push people to be experts, but we do have resources available for anyone that wants to learn more, whether it's our Learn platform or online courses or even all the webinars that we do. But for anyone that wants to start learning a little bit more, again, as I said, there are lots of online resources. There's lots of podcast shows that are focused on crypto markets, and I feel that's a good way of getting yourself familiarized with what's happening in the market. We have CoinDesk. We have 3 daily shows on audio, which you can listen to as you go along, as you're doing other things. And that helps you. I think, at least for myself, it has helped me with the jargon, with understanding who is who and who does what in crypto, and how that affects what we do every day. And also, the other way, how is crypto affected by macro shifts or inflation, things that also sort of have an impact on the market.
Cool. So thanks so much. I think one of the last question to sum up all our conversation. What would you recommend to someone who is starting from the beginning and wants to learn about Web3, learn about crypto?
I think the best thing would be to try and explore the different parts of the ecosystem, and then once you've read about or watched webinars or listened to audio resources on different parts, probably a good thing would be to pick a sector and then try to specialize yourself in that sector, whether it is NFTs or games or you name it. Try to once you've seen the umbrella, focus perhaps on one where you find your passion and become an expert on that. That, I think, is yes, in a way it narrows your opportunities, but it also sort of makes you a specialist, and something that we will all be talking about more and more, I think, and it will affect recruiting as well. We were talking earlier about your Metaverse. I think many people with Web2 experience will be very will be assets required for the for Web3 and Metaverse. Metaverse is likely to revolutionize the way we purchase things, the way I think commerce will be heavily disrupted by the Metaverse. We will all have a digital wardrobe. We might want to have a space in Sandbox or whatever. So I think all those skills that come from Web2 will be applicable in Web3 when the time comes. But I think that's one of the things that excites me the most about the future, how the Metaverse will disrupt all the sectors, because it presents a huge opportunity for companies in from Coca-Cola to McDonald's to Gucci.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of Web2 companies are coming to Metaverse. By the way, do you see any opportunities for sales in Metaverse? How do you feel it right now? Are companies
I
are
think
interested in?
I think quite possibly. I think there will be departments of digital. Say we would mention fashion. There will be departments of digital fashion eventually at companies. More and more, parts of our lives will be lived online on the metaverse, and you will want to look good. You will want to have a good outfit when you're presenting in meetings, and all those things. Many will be you will be able to purchase them yourself, but some things will have to be pushed to people. So yes, that's definitely in the future, I think.
Amazing. So thanks so much for this conversation. I think it was really extremely helpful for all our listeners, and to tell the truth, for me too. So thanks so much for sharing your experience and your transition to Web3.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I think you're doing a great job at promoting the sector to a more wider, if you want, group of people.
Thank you. Thank you guys for listening to this podcast. We really need your feedback on this episode, so please rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And of course, don't forget to follow us on Twitter. It's a place where our CEO Anton writes his notes about Metaverse and HR tech. So don't forget to share this podcast in your Twitter, by the way. And thank you so much for listening to it. Goodbye.